I refer to the 74 principles of real leadership often. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not referencing them. I'd like to use this video to explain to you what they are and why they're so important to real leadership and holding yourself personally accountable. In 2008, I started writing a book. I was going to write 101 leadership tips, and that title was kind of used. And as I had 101, it wasn't working, and I was working with my editor, and it dwindled down and dwindled down, and it ended up being 74. And two of them are listen. Listen is so important that I used it twice because you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk. I heard that in church, I believe, or somewhere else. Don't quote me on who actually said it. I just know that I was in Michigan at the time. I was attending church, and I believe that a pastor said that to me. Now, the point is this. The 74 principles of real leadership help everybody. When you start holding yourself personally accountable, you need something that anchors you to being a real leader and the theory of personal accountability. And they're universal principles. They're universal, they're behavioral, and they work. The problem with over 6 billion adults in the world not holding themselves personally accountable is that we have free will. We have different generations. Culturally, we're different. Ethnicities, continents, everything that we do is different and somewhat the same. And there's nothing anchoring us to being a human being. There's nothing. If I don't want to treat you with dignity and respect, then I don't. What's respectful in one culture may not be respectful in another culture. So you have to ask questions. If you don't know, ask. And when you do know, now you can treat people with dignity and respect. Establish trust and be trustworthy. When you have those anchoring you to being a human being, it helps everybody become their best. And that's what real leadership is about in holding yourself personally accountable. The best outcome every single day. And because there was nothing that existed before without interfering with people's religious preferences, without interfering with people's sexual orientation or anything like that, everything is divisive. Unaccountable people did that on purpose because a house divided can't stand. But you also can't get anything done either because of your own personal preferences without anything there to say this. So if someone lies to you, you can say, well, one of the 74 principles of real leadership is be honest. So now you're lying and you haven't established trust and you aren't trustworthy. Let's do something about that. If you have a conflict with someone, you can say, well, because we're both personally accountable, we need to handle conflict when it occurs and we need to collaborate and strive for win-win. If your house is disorganized, you can gather everybody in the house and say, we need to eliminate this clutter because this is making us unaccountable. If you're working and you work from home, now people are coming into your home office and talking to you and distracting you, you can say one of the 74 principles of real leadership is eliminate distractions. And right now, I'm working. So is this urgent? If it's not, in a half an hour, I can come and find out what it is that you need from me. Taking risk. If you find that you are in a fearful state and you don't want to take that leap of faith, taking risk is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. Grow continually. So there isn't a chance that your working memory can atrophy or become dull and lackluster because you're continually growing. Challenge yourself. Failure is not an option. Quitters never win. There's so many aspects to your day-to-day life that you're really not thinking about how can I become my best in this day, in this moment. And that's what the 74 principles of real leadership are. That's what's in my book. And that's what I use to govern and guide my life and guide this movement and the theory of personal accountability. How do you get the best out of people day in and day out? And currently, this is the only thing that can do it and allow people to be themselves. Embrace diversity is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. We don't have to be the same because we're not the same. And when you embrace diversity, it helps you become a bigger, better person, a complete person. It allows you to continually grow. It's there for everybody. It's there. Real leadership is there for everybody to use. And when you start to learn how to use this amazing brain that you have, you incorporate the 74 principles of real leadership into your life, and it allows your day in and day out, to be best. The number one principle of real leadership is to hold yourself and others accountable every day. When you do that, All of these nuances and all of these things that fall apart don't fall apart when every adult starts holding themselves personally accountable, makes the decision that I'm going to be personally accountable everywhere you go, whether you're at the grocery store, the airport, the pilot on the plane is doing the right thing, the air traffic controller, the neuroscientists, the neurosurgeons, the teachers, the students, everybody is focused on becoming their best because we have these 74 principles anchoring us to being a human being with the one objective. Everybody has the same objective. Be the best. There's only a small group of people waking up every day wanting the worst. I want the worst. Ha, 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 ha. You're going to be this mean, evil villain. And that's because their brains are wired to be addicted to dopamine and adrenaline. And so the amygdala is like, I'm going to be a bully. I'm going to win arguments all day long. But as soon as you wire even them, as soon as everyone starts to wire their neural pathways to personal accountability, because it's not taught, you aren't taught, your brain doesn't come with a manual. Personal accountability is just now being taught. And I'm talking about in your day-to-day life, not go do your job, not come home and be a parent. It's in everything that you do. It's everything. It becomes who you are. It is universal. I challenge you to go to the website, turnarounddoctor.com, and look at those 74 principles of real leadership. There are so many resources on my YouTube channel. You go to the website, you can start a challenge. You can find me live on platforms. You can just engage on social media, but start to learn about personal accountability. Start to learn about how to use your brain to wire it to personal accountability because the objective is best. It's always best. Why be in relationships with unaccountable people when you don't have to be? Why go to an unaccountable business and have to deal with them because there are no alternatives? The 74 principles of real leadership make everybody their best. Everybody. And it allows everybody to be who they are. And it takes all of this divisiveness out of society so that we can make the world a better place, that we can start addressing things that have negative impacts on us day to day. We actually can do it. It is the 74 principles of real leadership. It is holding yourself and others personally accountable. They should do this, and they should do that, and they should do this. And it's really about opinions at that point. But when you use the 74 principles of real leadership, we're all speaking the same language. We're all using the same thing to become our best. We're all doing it. We have been told that the smile is universal. If you smile at someone, 99% of the time they're going to smile back. And I'm saying when you use the principles of real leadership and you make the decision to hold yourself and others personally accountable, we know, handle conflict when it occurs, embrace change, challenge yourself, take risks on the daily basis. A risk a day keeps the fear away. It allows you to say, hey, you're being unaccountable right now. Come back over here and be personally accountable. Do these behaviors. Actually take these actions and watch how everyone around you changes. Because most of the time you want people in positions of power and authority to change, but you can't even get your teenager to pick up their water bottles and put them in a recycle bin. So that's unaccountable too. And my objective is always to show you all of the micro unaccountable behaviors instead of just focusing on the macro ones. Because if you take care of the details, everything else will take care of themselves. That's the purpose of the 74 principles of real leadership. It's the reason why I get up in the morning every day focused on today another person can learn about personal accountability and start to implement it in themselves and in their communities, because that is the answer. It's not just cure world hunger. It's not just have all these cures for cancers. It's in your day-to-day. If you go to a coffee shop and your coffee is made wrong or your lunch is made wrong and you didn't get a chance to check it and you got to go back to work and now you have this lunch that you don't want, that was unaccountable on the persons who made your coffee, who made your lunch. They were unaccountable. It's in those details. It's in those small little details that impact the bigger part of your day. Everyone needs to become personally accountable. And you do that by first holding yourself personally accountable, learning the 74 principles of real leadership, implementing them, and then having everybody else hold themselves personally accountable and implement them. Now we're all speaking the same language from a human perspective, and it's be personally accountable for all that you do and all that you fail to do. One of the 74 principles of real leadership is to apologize when you're wrong. How many family and business partnerships have been severed because one or more people don't want to apologize for being wrong? Something as simple as that can change the trajectory of our lives, of our personal relationships and our professional relationships. The 74 principles of real leadership work. When you work it, so work it because you're worth it. To take a line from Al-Anon, they work. Start holding yourself personally accountable and be vocal about it, and make sure that you do the second part of that principle of real leadership. It's to hold others personally accountable too. That's how we change the world. That's how we get to best. It's so important that you start today. And you know when you can stop? The day after you're no longer here. It is the change that we as human beings need. The 74 principles of real leadership work. Go to the website today, theturnarounddoctor.com, and review them. And while you're there, go ahead and sign up for something so you can start holding yourself personally accountable. And if you're already in a challenge and you're already doing this and you're part of a 30-day challenge and you're watching this, go send this video to somebody else and use it as the reason why you can start holding other people accountable too. Got it? Good.